Hey guys, I wanted to put this together to kind of go over where the fraud started in my case. My case involves a child support. And it goes kind of like this. In order for the domestic relations section to have jurisdiction to hear the case, there must be an abandonment or some form of neglect of your child. Now, neither of these things were present in my case, but they act under presumptions. Once they presume that these things have taken place, they do everything they can to get an order of financial support out as expeditiously as they can. And they get it signed off by a judge who never saw the case, never heard the facts, just signs off on it. And all they're really doing is, in this whole process, is comparing your earnings and your ex's earnings, and making some kind of an adjustment so that the one who makes the most pays the most, and whoever's claiming that the child lives with them gets the payment. So, in my particular case, my ex wanted to give our son up for adoption in November, before he was born. And things were kind of rocky between us anyway. But when I said no, that I would not allow my son to be adopted, and that I would gladly take my son and care for him wholly, without any assistance, that was not an acceptable term for her. So when my child was born on March 2nd, 2015, I was informed by a third party that she had gone in to have the child, and so I grabbed my mother and we called the hospital to find out what room she was in. And we went up there together, and I walked in the room and said, "Hey, how you doing? Is the baby okay? Did everything, come out okay? Is everybody going to be okay?" And my ex said, "Who the fuck told you? Get out." And she was very rude. Now, my mother was there to witness this, and she did make comment to my mother that the baby was born at 7:35 and what he weighed, and I can't remember the exact number that she told him. I have it written down somewhere. And told us that we had to leave. So we did. The very next day, I went and sought an attorney, explained the situation, and immediately got custody paperwork started and filed in the courts. Now, I did this with the custody order or complaint for custody to prove that I wanted to be a part of my son's life, and that there was an unwillingness on my ex's part to cooperate in making that happen. So after about 3 weeks after I filed for my custody petition, my ex went to the child support section and filed for child support. They wanted me to sign a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity and basically waive my rights as a result. And I said, I'm not signing anything. I would prefer that a DNA test be done, and I'll agree to have a DNA test. So we had a DNA test done. And the part of the reasons for that me requiring the DNA test was I was a truck driver. I drove over the road. She decided not to give the baby my last name and continuously refused any contact or attempts to contact and allow me to be a part of my son's life. I have documented evidence where she text messages her friends saying that she didn't want to be with me, but I didn't want to give the baby up for adoption, so she's keeping it. And things similar to that. Now, these text messages came about in November and December, 3 months prior to my son's birth. In January, I received similar emails from her requesting that I give my son up for adoption. And I refused and said, hey, just let me have him if you don't want him. And then if you change your mind, you know where I'm at, and you can come visit him. I, was trying to be as amicable as possible. But that wasn't good enough for her. In her text messages to her friends, she made many mentions of making sure that she put my name on the birth certificate so she wouldn't have trouble with getting child support. There was one mention about all she needed was my social security number so she could get child support. And another one that said something along the lines of, even if we stayed together, I would still want your child support, your social security number so I could get child support. So it's apparent to me that, the primary goal for her was to receive child support because I would not give the child up for adoption. Now, I didn't have any intentions of abandoning my son. I did not have any intentions of neglecting my son or not providing for his needs. However, she held my son away from me and would not work out any way for us to contact each other. She refused my phone calls. She evaded me as much as she could. And then she enrolled him in daycare. Well, by the time she had enrolled him in daycare, the paternity suit had been, testing had come back, and I was claimed to be the father. So I used that paternity order to visit my son 3 days a week in daycare without her knowledge. And after about 3 weeks, she found out that this was going on and basically made them lock me out of the facility and not allow me to see my son any longer. So by her own actions, she created an appearance of abandonment that she could portray to the courts in order to gain child support. Now, I have evidence of these things. I have not brought them to light because I did not want to make her look bad, because I tried to be a fair and honest guy and wanted at least some shared custodies, because I don't think that it's right to deny my son the ability to know his mother and his brother and sister. So I didn't really fight it that hard. Didn't want to try to take the child from her. Just wanted us to share equally. And I fought very hard. And we're currently at 44% for me and 56% for her. And the difficulty in getting above the 44% is the fact that child support has been established, and the courts make money off of this. And of course, it was her goal all along to get child support. Well, the problem with child support is that it effectively causes me to have to provide 2 homes and all of the basic necessities for him in 2 homes. And that fact is not ever taken in consideration by the courts. So, there seems to be a little bit of a fraud situation going on, and I'm attempting to thwart their efforts at getting me thrown in jail for contempt the second time now, because this time they have removed my driver's license, taken my ability to earn a wage away from me, and are now coming at me for failure to comply with their support order. And it's a direct result of their actions of removing my abilities away. These are just things that I have to put down on paper with the exact dates and times and who said what, when, and where, to create a fact sheet, to attempt to prosecute these bad actors for basically misusing the court and opening the court without any facts and injury and fact, which would give them jurisdiction to come after me. So, their initial proceedings were they sent me this letter saying she complained for support, which she did not have a right to complain for support because she was withholding the child and basically holding him for ransom. She refused me any contact, wouldn't accept my phone calls or text messages, wouldn't tell me where he was being placed for daycare and the whole likes. So, any condition of abandonment was not of my own doing, nor was it my intent to abandon my son. I filed for custody immediately, within 7 days of learning of his birth, which she didn't even have the courtesy to tell me that he had been born. I had to find out through third parties. Of course, I did find out the day he was born, and when we went in there, she threw us out of the hospital. And then after establishing paternity and getting a certified copy of the paternity, I I made every attempt to go visit my son at the daycare and had worked out a plan where I could visit him 3 times a week for an hour at a time, until we got our custody situation straightened out. But then it got to a point where my ex, being an employee of the court and having unlimited connections with all these people that deal with this stuff, had conversations with the child custody counselors, and they began issuing orders without speaking to me in an attempt to stop me from seeing my son at daycare. Well, what happened there, after they did that, I had to threaten the daycare with a lawsuit for violations of their regulations for licensing, because they're not allowed to do that. They have to keep the doors open for the parents of the children that are in their care. It's just that simple. And they had no grounds to keep me from coming in. I wasn't abusive or didn't make any threats, but that's just what happened. So once they stopped letting me in, I did make a formal complaint to their attorney and said, your clients are depriving me of my right. They're keeping me from my son without cause. And if this situation doesn't correct itself, I will be forced to take an action against them that could possibly cause them to lose their regulatory license. And that stopped them from keeping my son any longer. They actually kicked him out of the daycare and made my ex find somewhere else new. And I'm grateful that they found someone else new, because the new daycare is much more adult and accommodating to situations such as this. And I was able to pick up my son early without any issues, and take him and spend extra time with him until a new modification of the support or the custody order could be made. And in that custody order, the attorney for my ex basically asked to have the daycare visits eliminated. And I did gain some custody there, and what started out with approximately 14% custody was increased to 44% custody. Now, my ultimate goal is 50 or more, but this 44% has worked out pretty well for the last 2 years, and I'm wanting to continue with it. And right now I have a child support battle that's been going on, and I can't seem to get it resolved because of many different things. I don't have the financial means to take them to the proper court for hearing. I don't have the financial means to keep my regular day-to-day going. But the very first fraud is the fraud where they exercise jurisdiction that they did not have, meaning that they don't have a finding of absence or neglect caused by me. And so I'm forced to argue that here in a contempt charge on the 26th of April, along with the various other things that I have found that have caused impartial hearings, and the cooperative agreements that are attached with the judge who's sitting on the bench as a signatory, the financial incentives that they gain as a result of these hearings, and the likes. So I don't know whether I'm going to be in jail on the 26th and they will attempt to remove me from my son's life. I know it will be devastating to him, and he's already expressed some concern over that. But I have to go in there and try to stand up for my rights the best I can and articulate these things and, possibly disqualify the judge that's sitting on the bench, who's a signatory in 3 places on the cooperative agreements for the financial federal incentive programs that follow strictly Title 4D and basically ignore the constitutional rights that we have. So, wish me luck. And if you can help in any way, please click the link below and donate $5, $10, $15, $20, whatever you can put in there to try to help me get through until I get this matter resolved. I also have a petition for impeachment in that's kind of stalled out right now. I'm going to be following up more with that this week to see if anything's being done or if there's something they need from me to get it moving. But, it's when you're out here one man, it's very difficult to get anything done because they think that you're just one man and you don't have any support. And so, they just kind of see how persistent you are. I would encourage each and every one of you listening to this to go back and review my videos. Start working on your impeachment petitions. Get them in there. Get them filed. They're going to take time to get through. They're not that hard to put together. I've pretty much given you the basics of how to do it. You just put it in your own words. You found this. This doesn't agree with the Constitution. And we want the guy impeached for doing these activities that are clearly outside of his office. It's just that simple. And you provide them with some of the evidence. The cooperative agreements are a preponderance of the evidence. There's also child support master agreements that may have been filed. You get the judge's oath of office, if you can, and get that filed in there. And just put it all together and say, look, this guy has an oath of office. He's agreed to uphold and defend the constitutions. In the constitutions, it says this is a prohibited activity to join with a political subdivision. Here it is, clearly evidenced that he's done that. He's signed on as a master in these child support hearings, which biases the court. And the primary reason for him doing that is federal financial incentive programs. So, it's really not right. It's a corrupt, fraudulent way of doing things. So that's all I got to say for you guys tonight. Sorry, it's a dark video. But that's just some things to think about. And just trying to let you know I'm still out here. Just got lots going on. Good luck. See you later. Like, follow, and share, and donate if you got anything you can donate. Anything would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.